I said
something to the effect of...
something to the fact that now he knows how it feels to have a woman beat him for one.
For nearly a decade, Ronda Rousey was more than just an athlete. She was a revolution. The sound of her name sent chills through arenas. She didn't just win fights. She transformed women's MMA from a side attraction into a global phenomenon. When Rousey entered the octagon, fans expected chaos, dominance, and something they had never seen before. The lightning-fast arm bars, the relentless pressure, the stare that could freeze an opponent before the bell even rang. That was the aura of Rowdy Ronda. But all legends meet their reckoning. The same intensity that fueled her rise would also accelerate her fall. After years of dominance, the sport began to evolve. New fighters were coming in faster, sharper, and far more complete. They had studied Ronda's every move, her tendencies, her rhythm, and her weaknesses. The invincible aura started to fade. When Holly Holm's head kick shattered her unbeaten streak, it wasn't just a loss. It was the beginning of an awakening for women's MMA. Rousey's name still echoed in every gym, but something new was growing in the distance. A generation inspired by her, but determined to surpass her. And that's where Dakota Ditcheva comes in. A name once whispered in the British amateur scene, now shouted around the world. A fighter whose rise feels eerily familiar, yet fundamentally different. While Rousey's empire was built on dominance through judo, Dakota's arsenal is born of precision, the art of striking, the rhythm of Muay Thai, and the discipline of modern MMA. When UFC legend Dan Hardy declared, "I could make the argument that Dakota could beat anyone in this weight class on the planet," the world stopped and listened. Hardy wasn't just praising her skill, he was announcing a generational shift. The sport had moved forward, and the crown was already in motion. The once untouchable Rousey had built a kingdom, but every kingdom eventually meets its successor. Behind the glare of championship gold and media fame, Ronda's fall was deeply human. Few remember how much she sacrificed to get there. The endless hours on the mat, the pain behind the glory, the isolation that comes with being the first. In her own words, she admitted, "I felt like I owed it to the fans to come back. But the first time I got touched, I was out on my feet." It wasn't weakness. It was biology catching up with bravery. Rousey had spent years giving everything she had to the sport. Every victory took a piece of her. Every defeat, even more. The hardest part wasn't losing. It was being forgotten. The same crowd that once chanted her name turned on her overnight. The same media that celebrated her triumphs mocked her downfall. Rousey said it best, "I was vilified. The media wanted me gone." The woman who built the stage was suddenly unwelcome on it. She hasn't attended a UFC fight since, fearing she'd be booed by the very fans she created. But her legacy endures in ways she may not realize. Every modern female fighter, from Amanda Nunes to Kayla Harrison, and now Dakota Ditcheva, fights on a stage Ronda built. Rousey's decline exposed something few understood, that combat sports aren't just physical battles. They're emotional wars. Fighters break bones, but what truly shatters is their spirit when the applause fades. Yet, without Ronda's sacrifices, the Dakota Ditchevas of the world wouldn't exist. That's the tragedy and the beauty of this story. Greatness often destroys its creator, but births the next evolution. Rousey's pain became the blueprint. And somewhere in Manchester, England, a young fighter named Dakota was watching, learning, and planning to be better than the woman she once idolized. Dan Hardy, a veteran of war inside the cage, didn't speak lightly when he said Dakota represented the future of MMA. His analysis was surgical. Rousey, he said, was a specialist, a destroyer in one domain. Her Olympic-level judo made her untouchable in the clinch, but it left blind spots everywhere else. Dakota Ditcheva, however, isn't a specialist. She's a hybrid. A fighter designed for today's MMA, where every range is a battlefield. Watch her fight, and you'll see the evolution unfold in real time. Her footwork mirrors a kickboxer, her timing that of a sniper. She doesn't rush, she stalks. Every jab sets up a trap. Every feint hides a bomb. On the ground, she's calm, calculating, and difficult to control. Hardy explains it perfectly. Dakota doesn't just react, she reads. She's part of a new breed of fighters who grew up studying footage, understanding data, perfecting balance between aggression and awareness. When she fought Taila Santos, the world saw what Hardy meant. Dakota didn't just win, she dismantled. Her body shots were surgical, her defense airtight. Every strike echoed with the sound of evolution. Where Ronda once imposed chaos, Dakota controls it. She doesn't rely on emotion or brute strength. She relies on geometry, rhythm, and patience. The old way was to overwhelm. The new way is to outthink. That's the difference between Rousey's era and Dakota's. It's not just a generational gap, it's an evolutionary leap. Ronda was the hammer. Dakota is the scalpel. Numbers don't lie. 14 wins, 0 losses, a 90% finish rate, and a $1 million championship run in the PFL. Dakota Ditcheva's record reads like a prophecy fulfilled. She's not padding stats against easy opponents. She's destroying elite competition. Against Taila Santos, she proved she could dismantle UFC-level talent with frightening ease. 2 rounds. No mistakes. Total dominance. The crowd knew they weren't watching a prospect. They were watching a force of nature. Her striking isn't just powerful, it's poetic. Every punch lands with purpose, every kick with intent. She blends Muay Thai knees with Western boxing precision. And when her opponents attempt to grapple, she sprawls, defends, and resets the fight on her terms. That's what Hardy means when he says Dakota represents the future. She controls where the fight happens, how it happens, and when it ends. Meanwhile, Rousey's last walk was one of heartbreak. Against Amanda Nunes, she lasted only 48 seconds, a cruel reflection of how much the game had changed. The same fighter who once tore through divisions now stood frozen, unable to adapt. When she whispered, "God hates me." After that fight, fans realized they had just witnessed the final page of an era. Dakota's rise is the mirror opposite, fearless, hungry, and still climbing. When asked if she could compete with UFC's top women, she smiled. "I'd enter the top 15 today. Maybe the top 10. I could beat a lot of them." It wasn't arrogance, it was conviction. And that's what separates her. Rousey ended her career searching for confidence. Dakota fights as if she was born with it. The silence from the UFC is deafening. Rumors swirl about Rousey's comeback, whispers of training camps, speculation about potential matchups, but nothing concrete. Dana White hasn't said a word, and that silence speaks volumes. The machine that once revolved around Ronda Rousey is now quietly moving on. Its eyes are fixed on new blood, on Dakota Ditcheva, on the future. Commentators call her Dangerous Dakota, a name earned through violence, not marketing. Her fights end not by chance, but by design. She's as lethal with a smile as she is with a spinning elbow. Dan Hardy calls her the full package, beautiful, brutal, articulate, and terrifying inside the cage. That's the modern star blueprint. Meanwhile, Rousey's legacy remains untouchable, but static. She was the pioneer who built the door. Dakota is the one walking through it. The narrative has shifted from nostalgia to anticipation, from remembering what Rousey did to wondering what Dakota will do next. This isn't just a new fighter, it's a new philosophy of combat.